Hello everybody, my name is Dee and welcome to Books and Quirks. Today is Friday, so it's time for another Friday Reads. And I had a really busy week work-wise, working extra hours and that kind of thing. But I was able to still get a good bit of reading done. So I hope you all had a good week. I hope you're enjoying some warmer summer weather. And yeah, let me just get right into it and kind of tell you what I read and what I'm currently reading. So the first book that I finished, I just had a couple of days left when I spoke about it on Friday, was Sleeping Beauties by Stephen King. I don't have the physical book on me anymore because I do have to return it to the library, so it's currently sitting in my car ready to go. But I really enjoyed that book. You know, people seem to have mixed feelings on Sleeping Beauties, even the, die-hard Stephen King fans. But personally, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I mean, there were a couple of things having to do with the ending that I wish were a little different, and a couple of questions that were kind of left unanswered. But otherwise, I really enjoyed it. I don't want to get into the specifics because that would be spoilers, of course. But just to say that, it was still pretty high up there for me at a 4 star. So the next book that I finished was a romance, and that is The Wild Heir by Karina Halle or Halle. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but I really enjoyed this. This was not a very long romance at all. It was about 300 pages. And it is a royal romance. So it is about a woman who, or let me backtrack. It is about a prince. He's sort of, a playboy. He likes to have fun. His father is ailing, and he will soon have to take over the throne of his country. He is forced by his parents to sort of settle down and marry and grow up, unless he wants to abdicate to one of his sisters. He's the only male in of his siblings, which he could do, but he doesn't want to disappoint his father, so he doesn't want to abdicate. So they said, well, if that's the case, then you need to settle down. You need to not, go partying anymore, and you need to get married above all, because your reputation is like really slandered in this country because of all of your partying and crazy behavior. So he is given a list of potential princesses, and one of them is a young girl. She is a princess of a very tiny country, but she doesn't really want to have anything to do with that kind of lifestyle. She is currently in college in Scotland, and she just kind of wants to live a normal life. But she is invited to the palace to meet the royal family. They don't tell her why she's going, but when her father calls the king and says you need to go, she of course has to go. So she, I don't want to go any further because it sort of goes from there. That's the very beginning. I really loved this. I got this recommendation from watching one of Ginger Reed Laney's videos, and she was talking about, they had a romance readathon, and she was talking about this book, and it seemed like a fun read, and it really was. So I really enjoyed reading that, and I finished it within like a couple of days. The next book that I finished, and I cannot believe I finished this chunker of a book, is The Bronze Horseman by Paulina Simmons. This book has really mixed reviews on BookTube, and I know quite a few people really hate it, but I wanted to see what my opinion was, and my opinion is mixed. So this is the story. It's marketed as a love story, but also historical fiction. It takes place in Russia during World War II, during the Blitz of Leningrad in Russia, and it follows Tatiana and Alexander. Tatiana lives with her family. I think when the story starts off, she's 16 maybe, or 17, very young girl. As the book progresses, she gets older, of course, I think at the end she's 19 or 20. But when she first, when this book first starts out, it's the very beginning of the war. They first hear the radio announcement that uh, Hitler's forces are advancing, and everyone is called, all of the men are called to duty. And we see gradually how things deteriorate in Leningrad in particular. I mean, in Russia in general, but in Leningrad in particular. Um, how, food started to become scarce, first rationed, then scarce. Medical supplies were not there. There were no supplies coming into Leningrad. It was basically a wasteland by the time the war really got, by the time the Nazis really started bombing the city. So Alexander is our main male protagonist. He is a soldier in the Red Army. He is 21, I think, when the book first starts, or 22 maybe. So he's much older. And yeah, and it kind of goes from there. I loved the historical aspect of this book. Let me start with that. Absolutely adored the historical aspect of this book. That's, I really love historical fiction, so I really never read a book from Russian perspective. So this was really good in that respect. And the romance was uh, a little disturbing. I mean, when Tatiana and Alexander first start their romance, he's actually going out with her sister and her older sister. So as I was saying, so it was really disturbing in that respect. And that goes on for a long, long time. He's even engaged to her sister at one point. And also, it was a little abusive. I mean, not physically, but emotionally. Um, some of the parts of the romance were really sweet, but, Alexander had quite a temper and would get angry over the silliest things and then become really, kind of emotionally, mentally abusive towards Tatiana. So I found this book to be disturbing in those respects, and I'm not sure why people seem to love this book so much. Now, I did give it 3 stars just because I do love the historical parts of this book. I thought that was fascinating. It was just a love story that kind of disturbed me. If this was just a love story and had no historical content at all, I would have probably gave it 1 star. But because of the historical content, I did give it 3, which is just kind of an okay, middle of the road kind of read. But yeah, so I don't know if I would recommend this book. I mean, I guess if you really like historical fiction, you can read it for that part, but I just have to warn you that the love story is really, yeah, not the healthiest of relationships. Okay, so those are the 3 books that I finished this past week. Now, what am I going to be starting tonight and into the weekend? So the first book that I'll be starting is 99% Mine by Sally Thorne. Now, if you've heard, you might have heard of Sally Thorne before. She wrote a really popular book a couple of years ago called The Hating Game, which I absolutely loved. I have a hard copy somewhere on my shelves somewhere. But I absolutely loved that book. It's sort of, a working romance. You know, a man and a woman work for the same company. They start out really hating each other, like really getting on each other's nerves. And it blossoms into a romance as the story progresses and as they get to know one another. This book, I don't know anything about because I love The Hating Game so much. I really want to read this. And I know it was really popular on BookTube earlier this year. I know almost everyone that reads romance has read it already, but I haven't yet. I just never got around to it. So I'm finally getting around to it. I have it and I'm ready to go. So the other book that I'll be reading this weekend is Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I don't know a whole lot about this book, but I came upon it after scrolling through Goodreads and seeing some other people read this book. It's another romance, but I think it has sort of a parallel universe aspect to it as well. I think, basically it's about a woman who bumps into an old flame, and you're able to see in the book her life based on the choice that she makes. So going down one road, you're able to see how her life would turn out. Going down another road, you could see how her life would turn out. At least I think that's what the book is about. So I'll have to tell you more once I start it, but I plan on starting those two books, 99% Mine and Maybe in Another Life, this weekend. I don't know what else I'll pick up. I have another busy work week ahead. It's just been crazy. The past few months have been crazy, and I don't think it'll calm down in the next week. So we'll have to see. But I think those are just easy, fun reads, and I need some romance right now. So, anyway, that is all I have for you. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I hope you have some fun plans or some reading plans. Let me know what you're reading, what you're up to, and I hope to see you very, very soon.